If I asked you to think of a typical weight loss journey, what comes to mind? Probably diet and exercise, right? Maybe it's the latest diet trends, or the typical healthy foods, movement in nature or lifting at the gym. Maybe you even thought of the celebrities, the Lizzos, Rebel Wilsons, and Adeles of the world, with their endless resources allowing them the best of personal trainers, at-home chefs, and plastic surgeons. Or maybe, if you're like me, you thought of the more relatable influencers, all with their own inspiring story to tell. Whatever came to mind, I would almost bet you anything that you've never thought that a weight loss journey could actually look a little something like this. This is Jess Walsh, and this is the greatest weight loss story that you've never heard. Meet all-around legend and quadruple threat Jess Walsh, known on TikTok as JessSubject. A single mother of 4, singer, dancer, and all-around creative who lost 180 pounds and gained over 4 million followers by sharing her story and her struggle. Now maybe it's true that if you've heard one weight loss story, you've heard them all. And even in this story, the mechanisms of weight loss are largely the same. Intake less than is expended. But what I think makes Jess's story so special is just how much she bared her every internal thought and external struggle without giving up her goals, excusing her behaviors, or demanding preferential treatment at the hardships of life. With an unapologetic personality and seemingly endless energy, Jess shared the most intimate and difficult details of her life, refusing to dull her experience or presence for anybody. Never pulling any punches, she shared exactly how hard weight loss and life could be.
And I'm just eating. Because I just feel like that's all I can do.
All while never losing her sense of self, her humor, or her magnetic personality. Now this is where I'll tell you that this story contains several mentions of abuse, self-harm, ED behavior, and mental health struggles. So if you are sensitive to any of those or other difficult topics, please skip this video and I will see you in the next one. Jess started posting on TikTok in 2019 at the age of 22. In her early videos, you could find her sharing moments with her 3 children, duetting other creators, and acting out random skits. Standing at 5'10" and weighing in at 420 pounds, Jess also shared her weight loss journey from the beginning, sharing how over the course of 6 years, she lost 180 pounds using a combination of the right eating style for her, the movement that felt the best, and the mental fortitude that she personally crafted from the beginning of her journey. And in each post, you quickly get a sense of just how unapologetically herself that she is. Though perhaps more reserved in the beginning, she always seemed to step out of everyone else's comfort zone and embrace her unhinged side to the point where she showed up more authentically and more unabashedly herself the more mentally strong she became. My favorite thing about Jess is how vulnerable she can be with her insecurities, paired with an ability to not take herself too seriously regardless of what others may think, and usually doing so with a charismatic sense of humor.
It all started when my mom met my dad, and they fell in love, and they had me. Hi, I'm Ryan, and my life, it's kinda crazy.
In the early weight loss vlogs, she shared her losses, her eating style, which she describes as keto or low carb, with a focus on whole foods and paired with intermittent fasting. She shares how the focus on whole foods and high protein kept her full and allowed her to stop calorie counting. Jess then implemented more movement into her routine with a commitment to staying active and avoiding being sedentary by walking with her children, playing with them, generally moving more around the house, and of course, lots of dancing with her stomach that she nicknamed Tumothy.
You're a pretty lady if you get rid of the fat. This thing? Timothy? My baby? No!
Often stating that her movement and eating choices are body-led, providing her body with what it's asking for instead of falling into the same restrictive and destructive behaviors that she cycled through for much of her life. Jess states that she started posting on TikTok to improve her depression and to help others feel better about their own circumstances. The most important parts of her journey, I think, are the times that she describes the mental work that went into the weight loss, especially because Jess describes it to be the biggest change that led to all the others, but more on that later. First, diving deeper into her content and examining the hardships that she's had to overcome, Jess shares the struggles that she's both faced and surpassed in order to heal her mind and body. Over the course of her 6+ years posting on TikTok, she has opened up about the struggles that she's had with mental health, describing that at the age of 9 she first attempted suicide and continued to attempt several times after, consistently struggling with self-harm, depression, and disordered eating, which she shares stems from trying to cope with her depression and anxiety. Externally, Jess shares her many experiences with Me Too, difficulties leaving her abusive partner of 5 years, as well as her eviction, homelessness, and the momentary loss of her 3 children while pregnant with an unplanned 4th child. And I highlight these hardships only to show the uphill battle that Jess has faced at nearly every turn, and to echo how impressive I find it that the entire time she has fought for both her family and her health. Jess, through all her strife, has gotten her light back while achieving massive weight loss, and it's worth celebrating. It makes her story not only a success story, but one of the best that I have ever seen, especially in this new world where fat acceptance runs rampant and minor inconveniences are considered discrimination. It's incredibly refreshing to see someone tell their truth and back it up with action towards an improved lifestyle rather than counterfeit activism. And I'm going to severely read the room here when I say that much of fat activism, I feel, stems from obese individuals who find weight loss to be incredibly difficult, which it is, but it's to the point where they find a way to justify staying the same by insisting that the world change around them rather than they do. The mental changes, understandably, are the hardest to conceptualize for people, because I get the sense that many people consider weight loss to be a factor of eating less and moving more, which thermodynamically is true, but when it comes to disordered eating, addiction, and mental health struggles that keep you in destructive behavior cycles, fixing the brain becomes what I would consider to be the most important factor in a weight loss journey. That's why I consider weight loss to be a mental health battle more than a physical food and exercise battle. The mechanisms of weight loss are simple, but I get the sense that the radical shift required to change your mindset can sometimes force people into dangerous lines of thinking instead, especially when the mental work that is a prerequisite to lasting change seems impossible. This is why I often view weight as a symptom of the larger mental issues that keep us stuck in our cycles, rather than the main issue itself. As a result, the mental fortitude that it takes to heal from lifelong despair, trauma, or struggle is something that is so difficult to describe that I often find it being shied away from, especially in an online space. I think that the expected weight loss journey now often looks like someone who was slowly creating a new version of themselves, with struggle and strife often being hidden or edited, only showing a highlight reel of the wins, leaving an audience to wonder why it's so easy for them and not for me. But rarely do we see someone like Jess, who is authentically themselves the whole time, absolutely creating a new version of themselves, but never once losing who they are at their core. From the outside, it might have looked easy for Jess too, but she has shared how excruciating it was to retrain herself to not have to depend on food for everything, often using her addiction to it to soothe her difficult emotions. Even now, at her lower weight, she will share her difficult moments, showing that healing is not a linear path, but a peaks and valleys type of ride. She has fully detailed her every weakness and struggle, and determined that her weight loss was what she considered to be a natural consequence of her healing her mind. From binge eating daily, she learned to retrain her brain, starting with a desire and deciding that change was possible, then following through on the behaviors.
So growing up fat, I had wanted to lose weight my entire life. It wasn't until I was 22 when I really said, yep, something's got to change, and it's my brain. Because it wasn't the outside, because you could literally do the same thing day in, day out, and then get the results. But if you haven't really changed your beliefs, it won't stick. It was just not. So what I did was I cut the BS, said, how can I let the weight loss just happen? That's my goal, was to just let it happen. And I found affirming a healthy lifestyle and mindset the most effective, really becoming it, so it's long lasting. That was my goal. I didn't want to have weight loss and then over the next couple of years regain. I wanted to change my coping mechanisms. Yeah.
Often describing how she used meditation and journaling to train her brain to focus on her intended outcomes. She became aware of her patterns of using food to address emotions, began addressing the emotional problems directly, and healed the binging at the core of the issues she was burying with her binging behaviors. Telling herself, I choose to eat, and even allowing her binges to happen, because giving herself permission also gave her back the power and control that binging takes away, and allowed her to make a choice that is not from an emotional place, eventually leading to a moment where she was able to say, I don't choose to, when the binging signal showed up. At the same time, she stopped focusing on how fast weight loss was happening and started having fun, letting weight loss instead become a consequence of her changing lifestyle and new behaviors. So how do you start? Jess shares that it starts with a choice. Healing was a path that she chose, leaving weight loss to simply become a result as a consequence of that healing. And it just so happens that Jess started her weight loss by accepting herself and loving her body as it was in every phase of her journey and showing up authentically no matter what. So if you want to start by showing yourself some grace. Know that you will fall, but that doesn't mean you fail. And know that you succeed every time you show up as yourself and for yourself. That's all for now. Thank you so much for being here. Please like and subscribe so that we can reach our goals together, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!
So catch me if I fall.
Yes, this is a spoon. Oh, my back hurts from carrying the team. Okay. Like and subscribe. We're YouTubers. Of course we do 8,000 takes. I just want to go all night. I just want to go insane. Please tell me that came out good, because that is all I got.